Welcome to the PTSD Bunker Gear for Your Brain podcast. Post-traumatic stress disorder is not a death sentence, yet a rite of passage to a higher level of tolerance. Stay with us and come out of the darkness as your host, Carl Waggett, shines a light on this very misunderstood disorder.
Welcome to PTSD, Bunker Gear for Your Brain. I'm your host, Carl Waggett. Welcome to episode 293. Guys, if this is the first time you've ever found us, it's very nice to meet you. My name is Carl, and this is a podcast about post-traumatic stress disorder. But guys, don't get all freaked out. We keep things really simple here. We don't get real medical. We look at things through the eyes of the emergency services, which is police, fire, ambulance, and dispatch, as well as correctionals and Coast Guard. And guys, look, I think it goes without saying military. But guys, listen, you must understand, if you don't work in those lines of work, hey, still hang out. Yeah, no, it's a wicked cool subject. It really is. For those of you who do join in from time to time, guys, you know what the format is. Shall we get on with the show? Let's do this. Okay, great. So what are we talking about this week? Well, guys, this is a week that I've really been looking forward to doing for the simple reason I think there's a need for a week like this. And the week that we're talking about is how to communicate to our loved ones about what is going on with us. Now, look, this may not sound like a really, really big deal, but you know how I always go on about, you know what, you've got to get people on your side, because what this PTSD, depression, anxiety does is it tries to put an individual on an island. And the problem is when you put somebody on an island, that means their view is the only one they get. That's right. So if an individual thinks that they're a piece of shit and their life will never get better, guess what? If they're by themselves, that's the only view on life they have. It's very, very dangerous. But the more people that we have around us that can say, hey man, that's not the case. Remember when you did this for me? And remember when you did that for that person? All of a sudden what this does is changes our perspective. But guys, as I said, what this PTSD, depression, anxiety seems to do is, well, it seems to take away our communication skills. Now, I don't mean for a second that we can't go to a store and we can't ask for what we want. No, we can still talk, but for some strange reason, what this disorder, illness, injury, whatever the hell you want to call it does, is it takes the ability away to explain what's going on. Yeah, and guys, the reason why I really noticed this was because, look, when I was growing up, dude, I never stopped talking. I'm serious. I'm not saying people always listen, but you know what? I could always express what was going on with me. And the thing is I've always had this really, really weird skill set. Now, please understand that I'm pretty much useless at anything in life. Like, I really am. I'm not very good at anything, really. But what I am exceptional at is taking extremely complicated situations and making them sound simple. You know, and that's something that I've always been able to do. And what I do is I just use analogies, right? You know what? I think if you live enough life, you get into enough experiences that you can take an analogy and explain it to somebody and they go, oh, right, I see what you mean. Well, the thing is this is something that I was always able to do. You know, when people ask me what was going on, dude, I could talk for 2.5 days explaining what was going on. But when this PTSD, depression, anxiety jumped in, guys, it was like I could no longer do that. You know, people would ask me, you know, what's going on with you, Carl? You know, what's up? You seem distracted. And I'd be like, I don't know. You know, I'm just having a shitty time. Okay, let's just leave it at that. But the fact of the matter is that, guys, look, I could not communicate what was going on. So what I found for the first time in my life when I couldn't communicate was this is when I withdrew from people. Yeah, because I got really, really frustrated trying to explain something and not being able to do it. And I thought, holy shit, is this how normal people feel all the time? This would be awful. I can't imagine not being able to communicate stuff. So what I really wanted to do was give a week on this. Now, look, like I said, I'm not summing up every aspect of PTSD, depression, anxiety, but I'm trying to zero in on the really, really main ones. And in our last episode, you know, we talked about, you know, why people are so serious all the time sometimes, you know, and the example that I used in that was, well, guys, driving down a street without a barrier, right? I think all of us in the emergency services have seen what happens when a car crosses the yellow line. It's catastrophic. And I mean, don't get me wrong, cars nowadays are built so much better than they were in the 70s and the 80s. But still, are you kidding me? You'd get two cars traveling head on and they hit each other. Trust me, there's going to be a few bruises and cuts. There's no doubt about that. So the problem is when you see stuff like this, guys, listen, I'll tell you what, you pay attention. Yeah, you see, most people realize that bad shit happens on the 6 o'clock news, but when you work in a line of work where bad shit happens all the time, you understand the odds. And yeah, they're actually not as far removed as everybody thinks. So guys, we kind of examined that whole why people get a little serious. Because guys, I used to get asked all the time, Carl, what's wrong? Like, what's wrong? And usually I was being asked this when I was driving. Now, look, I'm not saying for a second that we shouldn't pay attention to the road, but dude, I had my hands at 10 and 2, and I was eagle-eyed. Like, I mean, there was no conversation going on with anybody because I was concentrating. And I'll tell you what, if you think I was safe on the job, you should have seen how safe I was around the people that I truly, truly loved, my family. I'm not saying I didn't love the guys on the job. I'm just saying, hey, we're talking about my little girl and little boy here. Like, it's a little bit different. So, guys, what are we going to look at today? Well, guys, look, I'm sorry, but I've saved the best for last because, look, this was one that made total sense to me when I finally figured it out, right? And, you know, I got to be honest with you, I did it with the help of Dr. Story. Oh, come on, let's be honest, guys. Everything that I do on this show is with the help of Dr. Story. It brings me immense joy to be able to bring this information to you and your loved ones. Okay, let's get on with it, shall we? Now, look, I've heard from definitely spouses. You know, there's definitely a few phone calls that I've taken. And look, being in the fire service for 15 years, trust me, you get to see a lot of this going on. The subject that we're going to talk about tonight is when somebody just becomes cold. Yeah, like they're not angry, they're not pissed off, you know, they're not distracted, they're just cold. Yeah, there just doesn't seem to be anything in there anymore. And guys, I kind of experienced this myself. And, you know, I had people like my mom and my dad come up to me and go, you know, Carl, listen, you know, there's definitely something changing about you. But the thing was, I could never put my finger on it. So I just kind of blew it off as everybody bitching at me. You know what I mean? And that's really what I did. And I was like, oh, just leave me alone. Jesus Christ. You know what? I talked my whole life and now I'm finally quiet. And you know what? And everybody's bitching about that now. It's like I can't win. But you know what? I think we all do that sometimes when we feel we're getting attacked and you know what, we don't want to face what's going on because quite frankly we don't know what's going on. So what do? Yeah, we fight back. Of course we do, because it's just a reaction. But see, guys, there's something that actually happens with people in the emergency services. Now look, guys, obviously we talk about PTSD, depression, anxiety in the show all the time, and as we all know, you can get PTSD from, well, a lot of different things, you know, from serving in the emergency services to the military, correctionals, Coast Guard, to being attacked on the street. Like, seriously, it really pans out that much. But what I really want to zero in on today is our emergency services. This might apply to other family members, so please don't end the podcast, but I think I can really zone in on this particular subject because, guys, this is a real problem, right? And not only that, this affects just your personal life. Yeah, this won't affect the job at all. Actually, this will make you better at your job. Yeah, it will. What we're going to talk about tonight just absolutely destroys relationships. And it's this, well, going cold, right? And a lot of people would actually see it as people falling out of love. Yeah, that's how they would see it. And to some very, very unfortunate spouses that are married to people going through this, that's exactly what it feels like. They've completely fell out of love because there just doesn't seem to be any emotion there anymore. Like I said, not happy, not sad, but just, I don't know, flatline. You know what I'm talking about? Well, guys, listen, as we talk quite a bit on this show, that the brain plays a huge role in our day-to-day, okay? And in the emergency services, we go to bad stuff. That's what happens, right? Nobody calls police, fire, ambulance, or dispatch when they're having a wonderful day with their family. No. Nobody's going to call a dispatcher to go, oh, hey, listen, yeah, 911 dispatcher. Look, I just wanted to let you know of how happy our life is right now. Can you hear the kids laughing in the background? Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, well, I just wanted to call and let you know that there is another side to life, and it's not just all death and destruction. Have a great day. Bye. Now, that never, ever happens. Usually when people call, it's when the world's come apart. You know, maybe little Jimmy's jumping on the trampoline and eating just like his mom and dad told him not to. But the fact is, he's a 6-year-old kid and he does it anyways. And guys, now he's choking on a hot dog. Yeah, those are the kind of situations that we go to. Now, look, I'm not going to get real graphic in this show because, listen, obviously being triggered is a serious problem. And guys, there's no point in me telling you graphic stories and you guys getting triggered because your heart rate goes up, adrenaline goes in, and you don't hear a word I say anymore. So let's stay away from the bad stories. But I think we all recognize that emergency service workers go to bad shit. Okay, look, when we go to that bad shit, believe it or not, like I've said in the past, our brain gives us a pass. Okay, so what we're able to do is go into a situation like that and be able to work. Like, think about how catastrophic a situation could be in a household when there is an emergency. Okay, there's a lot of screaming, there's a lot of crying going on. Now, look, somehow you have to remember all the shit that you've got to do. Now, look, I'm a firefighter, so I've got really simple jobs. But you think about the medics, you think about the information that they have to process in their mind. And can you imagine doing that while you're feeling emotions? You can't. No, it just doesn't work. Like, seriously, come on. We're all human beings. And you know what? Most of us have kids. And if we were to seriously think about the situation we were at, we'd melt. That doesn't make us tough or weak. That makes us human beings. Please don't ever get rid of that. That's so important to hold on to. But the fact of the matter is our brain does care about us and it doesn't want us to go through pain. So it kind of, well, it checks that emotion. You know what I mean? So yeah, you are able to be as cold as ice. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I've left calls and gone back to the station, let's say an extrication, because they're pretty graphic and up close and personal. And I've thought, holy shit, I didn't feel a thing during that. Like, I must be a Superman. Like, seriously, I did not feel 1 ounce of emotion the entire time I was there. Well, the interesting thing about this is look, if you keep doing this over and over and over and over, as we do in the emergency services, and your brain gets used to turning off bad situations, okay? Situations where you know that you're in and you can't let your emotions get into this, or it's only going to get worse. So the problem is your brain is no different than a muscle, right? It trains itself. So it learns that every time that it's in a bad situation, guess what? Emotions, fuck off for a second. We got to go to work. And look, guys, this works out fantastic at work. But how does this work out when you get in a fight with your spouse? Yeah, see what I'm getting at? The problem is your brain doesn't know the difference between an extrication on some country road at 3 a.m. in February or a heated debate with your missus. Or mister. It doesn't matter. But the fact is that when you get yourself in those high-stress situations, your brain is trained just to go cold. Yeah. Now, the problem is that may be good and it may be comfortable because you don't feel the situation. But like I said, guys, this is a nightmare for relationships. Yeah, because what this allows an individual to do is when you're in an argument with a loved one, it just gives you the ability to go, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I don't care. Whatever. Right? And it's not that you don't care. It's just the thing is that these people in the emergency services, they've refined this skill set to a point that, guys, they can basically turn their emotions off whenever they start to feel it. And guys, look, even though that is a lot easier to deal with, guys, that's no way to live. Like, seriously, think about it. Because not only can this affect, like, personal relationships with your spouse, this can affect relationship with your kids. Look, I'm sorry, but teenagers are supposed to piss you off when they're teenagers. Like, seriously, getting mad at a teenager for pissing you off or making your life awkward is like getting angry at a dog for barking when the doorbell goes. Look, I'm sorry, but the thing is that when we have those emotions, guys, well, we care, don't we? Yeah, we do. Okay, look, maybe we get mad and maybe it's uncomfortable, but the fact is that we show we care. And look, I don't care what anybody says. A kid realizes when you get angry, it's because you care about them. Any kid that's been neglected will tell you right out of the gates that a parent that doesn't give a shit will let you do anything. They don't give a fuck, right? You know what? You're going to sleep over at some person's house for 2 or 3 days. The parent goes, all right, have fun. See you later. Bye. It's scary. It's scary to live a life with no emotions. Right? It's a lot easier. You don't feel the pain of stuff. But the problem is with most of us in the emergency services, guys, we don't have this choice. It just automatically happens. Yeah. And the problem is with us not understanding this happens, we just think it's status quo. Like this is just our life going, and maybe we're not as emotional as we used to be. Maybe we're not as passionate as we used to be. Who cares? That's life beating us up. But look, let me tell you something. This is your wonderful gray matter at work protecting you. Seriously. Now, the problem is that when you don't know this is happening, like I said, guys, this can cause havoc in your personal life. And when your personal life goes for a shit, well, that's your life that's going for a shit. Yes, because work is only work. And when your personal life goes, that's when you start to understand real pain. You know, that really is. And the message that I really wanted to get across to the loved ones in this particular podcast was, look, guys, don't think for a second that your loved ones are just completely going cold because they're assholes now. No, what you have to understand is this is many, many years of them learning how to turn emotion off. Yeah. I mean, seriously, can you imagine your loved one going to work and coming home basically a basket case every shift? Because you know what? They can relate to every call that they've seen. Trust me, that's no way to live. Your brain will jump in and go, no, we're not doing that. We're just going to shut the emotions down. And guys, if you don't understand that this happens to an individual, guys, divorce can follow, especially with loved ones. and all of a sudden kids stop talking to parents just because it's easier, and before you know where you are, guys, your phone doesn't ring anymore because, well, you're not passionate enough to get together with the guys anymore, or you and the girls never go out for movie night, or whatever. It really doesn't matter. But the fact is that when you start to lose this emotion, right, because it makes it easier at work, guys, what this does is it really cuts the legs off to our personal life. And I didn't want the loved ones thinking that this coldness, this Mr. Freeze, if you will, is something that they're doing because they don't like you anymore. That's what bothered me the most, is that my loved ones didn't think I cared for them anymore. And I'm including my friends in that one too, right? But the thing I just couldn't get over was how little I gave a fuck about everybody anymore. Yeah, it was really, really weird. It was just like I was cold. There was just nothing in there anymore. And you know what? This was such an asset at work. It really was, because, it's so much easier not to feel shit at work. Like, I gotta be honest, in the emergency services, look, it's just easier to go to a call, do your shit, get on the truck, and come back to the hall and finish lunch, right? Just don't think about it. But guys, as I said, the problem is our brain doesn't know the difference between work and personal life. And the problem is when we start to take this mentality in our personal life, guys, it will shred our relationships. Yeah, it will. It'll just shred them. Because trust me, when you stop caring for other people, well, people go on with their lives. And the problem is when our immediate family starts realizing that, holy geez, you know what? Carl doesn't really want to talk about anything anymore. And he just kind of sits there and just no emotion, doesn't want to do anything fun anymore. The problem is that they go on with their lives and, well, Carl sits here, doesn't he? Yeah. And as I've always said, guys, I do these podcasts so people do not make the mistakes that I've made in my life. Because the thing is that if you make these mistakes, you know what? It's so difficult to stop at a later age and come back. Don't get me wrong. You can do it. Absolutely, you can do it. It's something that can definitely be done. But guys, I think we can all appreciate it. If we learn this at an earlier age, let's say with the younger firefighters, guys, they don't have to go through the same mistakes that we did. And you know what? Maybe their loved ones won't experience them going cold and withdrawing and, sitting at dinner if you can finally get them to go out and they just sit there and eat and there's really no communication. Guys, what you have to understand, after a career in the emergency services of seeing horrible shit most of the time, trust me, your brain would start to cut emotion out too. It just would. As I've always said, guys, the brain, it moves away from pain towards something more pleasurable. Oh my word, look at my time. I'm sorry, guys. The reason I go on about this episode as long as I did is because, guys, this is something that really, really affected me. I went as cold as anything. I couldn't believe it. Like, it got to the point where if something bothered me, I could look right at it and go, I don't care. Whatever. See ya. Enjoy your life. Like, it just didn't bother me at all. And, not to say that we can't utilize this at the call, but guys, we can learn how to get it back in our personal life, which is so, so important. So I wanted the loved ones to know that, guys, sometimes, hey, shit happens. You know what I mean? You see enough bad stuff, your brain goes, all right, we're done with the whole feelings thing. Let's just stick on autopilot and concentrate on pumping blood around this body and getting air in it and just leave it alone for the rest of the time that we're here. Guys, if you live a life like that, trust me, it can get extremely, extremely lonely. So anyways, guys, listen, as I've always said, if you get an opportunity to stop by our Facebook Live show on Monday, Wednesday, Friday evening at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, guys, I would love it if you did. What we do is we take this podcast and I do a Facebook Live about it, and then I'm able to get in the comment section, and we talk about the subject that we just talked about. Now, also, guys, as I say at the end of every podcast, and I can't let you go without saying this, if you're finding that you are turning into Mr. or Mrs. Freeze over here, you know what I'm talking about? Your emotions are actually starting to get parked and you don't feel stuff you used to anymore. Guys, look, I've got a support group called The Bunker Room. It's a cool little place on Facebook. It's private. Nobody knows you're in there. You send me a friendship request to Carl Waggett and I'll send you an invitation to The Bunker Room. And you know what? You can go in there and kind of have a look around at what people deal with on a daily basis with this PTSD, depression, and anxiety. So guys, there you have it. A whole week on what I would have loved to tell the loved ones of people that suffer from PTSD, depression, anxiety back in the day. But guys, this PTSD PTSD and all this crap. I don't know, it seemed to take my communication skills away. So I just wanted to take a week and maybe shed a little light on this for our loved ones to just kind of explain what the hell that it is we're dealing with here. Because trust me, guys, this is not a fun road to ride when you're with your loved ones. I'm telling you, especially when you can't explain what exactly is going on inside of you. Ugh. What a shit show. Anyways, listen, guys, if you happen to get a chance, why don't you grab the family members or loved ones, throw the running shoes on, get yourself out there for a nice walk. I'm telling you, it'll do all your souls the world of good. You guys take care of yourself. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to the PTSD Bunker Gear for Your Brain podcast. Gain more knowledge by going to ptsdbunkergearforyourbrain.com. While you're there, subscribe and comment. Join us next time for the PTSD Bunker Gear for Your Brain podcast.